It's February 12th. If you're watching us on launch day, you only have 2 days until Valentine's Day.
You're not Krista.
Krista's doing normie stuff as far as I know.
We don't even know what she's doing. But
that darn wedding.
Oh, we have not yet begun to experience the wedding problems. That's going to be pretty extreme.
She can't go to LTX because of the wedding.
We have a weird split of the news. I feel like we say that every week. But so this week, it's going to be government and just a tiny bit of design, which really, design, we've got nothing to say about.
Canceled.
So we'll do it just a spider, but don't expect much from it. And then Friday will be the big day, which is weird because usually Friday's like the catch-all day. So anyway, let's begin, as we love to do, with America's favorite person.
House Democrats tell Ajit Pai, stop screwing over the public. Ars Technica did not take an artistic license with that headline. The senators are very upset, at least the Democratic ones.
Well, they are. But as we'll see in a future story, some of it's manufactured upset.
Yeah.
I don't think they quite understand it. But at least they're doing something. And so they really are taking the gloves off when it comes to what they're accusing Pai of doing, which is what he is doing. He's in the pocket of the corporations. And
something, it will lead to more competition and more choices, and that's not actually a thing.
They're kind of pulling back the layers on the excuses to reveal how stupid they are.
They are really dumb.
You really don't have to really look too hard into it. Like, even these politicians can understand, to some degree, how ridiculous that is. And in that vein, he has lost.
Ajit Pai has lost in court. Judges overturned the gutting of a tribal broadband program. So this is a subsidy that the FCC has provided to people on tribal lands. It doesn't matter if it's rural tribal lands or urban tribal lands.
Are there a lot of urban tribal lands?
Probably out west, like around Vegas, I would guess.
Well, but Vegas is like little clusters of city with giant deserts. So I'd say urban is a relative term there.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it turns out that it's hard to do broadband in rural areas.
Well, there's no reason to.
Yeah.
It's probably not that hard. Yeah. It's just same as rural. Money's not there. If you're going to run a new infrastructure and you're going to get 100 customers versus running infrastructure and get 5,000 customers, that's pretty easy math.
The judges here basically said that we don't understand how you came to the conclusion. Can you cite your sources? And the FCC couldn't. So somehow removing the subsidy would lead to more competition. But it was almost like in South Park, where it's like those guys that are not supposed to hunt stuff, like the stuff. It's like, oh, it's coming right for us. I fear for my life, and then they shoot it. This was like, oh, it'll increase competition. Let's get rid of it. The judges were like, well, did you base that on any kind of like study or whatever? And the answer was no.
I think it was supposed to be like resellers didn't get the subsidy, but main providers still could. So like if Verizon went into those areas, then they would be encouraged to do so because they would not have to compete. I don't know. It was very flimsy. It was $25 a month. So if you're in a tribal area, you get $25 toward your phone and or internet, which it seems like, how much could that have even mattered? I mean, considering the amount of tribal land, it's a weird battle to fight, I think.
There's not a lot of, I would not think that would affect a lot of subscribers, but the article I think mentions it was like 2 or 3 million accounts. Potentially are affected.
That's amazing. I didn't realize we had that much tribal land.
It seems like that's a lot, but that maybe is not also a lot for, I mean, it's 1% of the population. So,
but you got to think, so 2 million out of, what are we at, 230?
Yeah. Oh, no, it's like 300.
Oh, is it 300 now? And some percentage of those people just simply aren't going to use it.
Yeah.
Like, especially tribal people, that's like ghost in the lines. I don't want it. It's going to steal my soul. So
here come the downloads.
that's hyperbole. Don't get upset about that. But yeah,
our audience does not understand hyperbole.
No, it's almost like they have some sort of social limitations. There should be a word for that. Well, we all talk about how important VPNs are, especially in the day and age of everyone tracking everything that you do. But this seems like it might be, as we like to say on the Level 1 News, a bit of a slippery slope when it comes to VPNs.
U.S. senators asked DHS to look into U.S. government workers using foreign VPNs. Senators are alarmed that U.S. government workers may be sending sensitive traffic to China or Russia. Yeah, I mean, this seemed like, for a normie, like I could imagine my grandma reading this and saying, yeah, we should probably look into that. But then it's like, well, wait, if they're going to be able to look into government workers' VPNs, they're going to be able to look into everybody's VPNs.
Or, as they often do, just a blanket statement. It's like, oh, VPNs are bad. Yeah. Now, they're not wrong, because the problem here is that there are a lot of free VPNs. Now, how do you pay for a free VPN service? Well, you might get some money from the Chinese government. And it turns out a lot of those VPNs go through China. They are for sure stealing your data and watching you.
Yeah.
But something like private internet access, who we happen to have a referral program for on our support page on the website.
Level1text.com/support.
But we don't tell you to use private internet access because we have a referral program. We tell you because in court they've proven they don't keep logs and they don't track you because they've been subpoenaed and they're like, we can't do it.
Now, does this also imply that U.S. government workers not using VPNs, we can see all their stuff so we don't need to worry about it? In which case, that's also terrifying.
Yeah, well, if they were telling them, hey, you need to use better VPNs, then I would say, okay, that's good advice. But then if we talk about, it's like, just don't use VPNs. So I don't think they...
So we can see what you're doing? And it's like, oh, there's a surveillance apparatus.
Oh, actually, I think it would be great if we could see what the government was doing.
No, that will never happen.
Should be open government. Yeah, that's a weird concept, huh? Well, the one thing about the government is it's interesting because, government technology, they have no idea what's going on 99% of the time. But they have latched on to one new technology, and it's in everything you read now, and that's 5G.
Yeah, U.S. has warned its European allies not to use Chinese gear for 5G networks. This story is starting to get really interesting. The United States sees the European Union as its top priority in a global effort to convince allies not to buy Huawei equipment. It wasn't just Huawei, it was ZTE as well.
It's always they always mention them together.
Yeah.
So yeah, this, of course, Huawei, obviously the U.S. government is against them. But in Europe, I don't think they completely buy into all that.
Yeah.
And obviously Canada is having their doubts despite arresting the CFO. So it seems like we're using our political clout to further attack Huawei.
I worry about, on the surface, it seems plausible, but it seems plausible in the way that, the supply chain bugging of supermicro devices seems plausible. But there doesn't seem to be a lot to that because there have been a lot of companies with supermicro equipment that have done a lot of deep forensic analysis of their equipment, and statistically, it was not, if any equipment was actually affected, like as described in the Bloomberg article, it was not a significant percentage of equipment, statistically.
But that's not the only benefit. Having your companies getting all these contracts is good for your economy.
Mm-hmm.
So there could be other reasons, even though they don't want to say that's what those reasons are, for doing this.
Yes. Yeah. I guess that's kind of, what other explanation is there?
Well, the other explanation is just stirring people up, giving them an enemy that they can understand.
The outrage machine.
Yeah. And it's easy to campaign on fear.
Yeah.
So why not do it? We've talked a lot on Level 1 News about public records. Freedom of information is a constant thing that we talk about. You get these big juicy releases. Of course, they're usually just blacked out completely. But in the age of GDPR and all these different kinds of rules about being open, they have to resort to trickier tactics, which is what this story's about.
Attacking a paywall that hides public court filings. So they're talking about the system that we have here in America for the federal government, the court filings. And so some filings are hidden behind a system called Pacer, and that charges 10 cents per page, but that doesn't really make sense anymore. The technology has progressed to the point where 10 cents a page is wildly profitable.
Even during the time when they would have to print them and mail them, 10 cents a page was profitable. But now, they estimated what it was like a 1/4 of 1,000th of a cent per page was the real cost. And the Supreme Court has adopted a completely free system, and that's working fine. So yeah, these people are going after, it's not a private company. They use that money as kind of a slush fund. But they've talked about buying like big screen TVs for jury rooms and paying bills and stuff out of that money. So it's probably not necessary. Now, the revolving door of corporations and government. That's another big topic.
What do we mean when we say revolving door?
Well, see, the thing is, you go into one and then you leave and you go back to the other one. But then you might go back again. And the problem is, one side is supposed to be keeping the other side in line. But if you're going to be switching sides in 3 years and you know that, will you fight?
Yes.
Well, we know Tom Wheeler did it. Colin Powell's son, what's his name?
Oh, I can't remember. I don't know.
He's a pal. He was also FCC chair. He is now the lead lobbyist for the telecom firms. Pai, without question, will go back to them.
The revolving door was spinning so fast its bearings melted.
We could power the entire Earth off of that revolving door when Pai goes back and forth, because there's no chance he's not. And now we have another name.
Mignon Clyburn, no, you were the chosen one. Democrat Mignon Clyburn is, they're advising the T-Mobile Sprint merger on how to navigate the waters for merger in order to have T-Mobile and Sprint merge. You were the chosen one.
This is a merger she voted against, but now she's for it.
No, I think it was the AT&T Sprint merger, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I think it was the AT&T Sprint merger that she voted, and it's because T-Mobile wasn't part of the equation, and now it's like.
But the argument was it's good to have more competition in that realm. Taking one out is a bad thing, no matter how you slice it. But of course, she is now able to use her expertise to tell them, this is how you get through all these loopholes. I know, because I made them. And she's probably making quite a bit of money. Meanwhile, Powell is still there. He's still part of this equation. So they have two former FCC chairs in their pockets.
No.
What are you going to do? You're going to pay a lot for internet services. What are you going to do? For a while, I was using Waze. You ever use that?
Yes.
And it's got a really cool feature where you can just sort of tap a button and tell it that you're experiencing something in the area, like a car accident or a police checkpoint. That's totally legal. That's free speech. You're allowed to call your buddy up and be like, hey, there's cops here. Be careful. But the NYPD doesn't seem to want to admit that.
The New York Post says that the New York Police Department is telling Google to stop revealing the locations of police checkpoints. Absolutely a free speech issue.
Yeah, so they're saying that if a drunk driver kills somebody because they avoided a checkpoint because they were using Waze, then that would be Alphabet's fault. But is it really?
No.
It's a drunk driver's fault.
Yes.
We're blaming the gun here. So, Google, to their defense, has been silent about it, but they have not removed the feature.
Yeah, New York, the place that brought you stop and frisk.
I stopped using Waze, though, because I'm a little weird about being tracked constantly. Of course, I've got the Google phone on me, so there's some level of that happening.
Yeah.
But I just actually registered my car with their little, service tracking thing. And if you dig through the setup, it's like, oh, by the way, we've opted you into all these, insurance programs and safe driving tracking and congratulations. And you turn them off and they're like, wait, well, you shouldn't turn this off. This is really good for you.
You definitely should turn that off.
Well, we talk about the revolving door, and it's not just the FCC that has a revolving door. You can come from parts of government and go right into none other than Facebook.
A former White House security chief is deleting Facebook pages that criticize governments. So I read this headline and I was like, surely that's not what's actually happening.
That's exactly what is happening. So this guy was Obama's security chief for 4 years, the 08 to 16, or no, wait, was it? It might have been the whole time. Anyway, he then went to Facebook as part of their, fighting fake news team.
Well, because government criticism is obviously fake news.
Right, yeah. He focuses squarely on government criticism. Now, they don't say that they're removing these because they're criticizing the government. They say they're removing them because not even that they're wrong, but just that they're using these blanket tactics. Like they accuse those Russian people of you're just posting everywhere to stir everybody up. But one of the people who got banned pointed out, it's like, read any social media strategy book. You post everywhere. That's what you do. That's common practice. Everybody does it. So it seems like they might be targeting based on the message.
Well, it also seemed like from some of the examples that they were targeting messages that were getting traction. So it's like if you're a crazy person and you're just posting, horrible things that have been done to you, that's okay. But as soon as it gets like 100 likes or whatever, it's like, no, we got to take that down and then shoot first and ask questions later kind of thing.
Yeah. A lot of people argue that that's why Alex Jones was allowed to operate freely for so long, is because he had a big audience, but nobody really took any of those people seriously.
Yeah.
And then with Trump, they sort of got this feeling, it's like, wait a minute, he might actually be able to affect things. And next thing you know, he was off every platform. So
this is, how can, the logical conclusion of that is that you are unhappy with the political situation and you look at a platform you control and it's like, did I create this? Are people that dumb? Do I have to help people not be dumb? And it's helping people not be dumb in the most egregiously But it's as offensive and arrogant as the whole, like, we have to help these poor minorities because they'll never be able to help them. Poor little things. Us brilliant white folk need to step in and defend them. It's that same kind of hypocrisy. And but it's happening. So, if you get your news from Facebook, you're already lost to us. But good news about if you're German.
Well, it's going to affect the whole EU, I think. If you're in one, if you're worried about the Facebook people who've already fallen under the spell, maybe they won't be taken further.
Facebook ordered to stop combining WhatsApp and Instagram data without consent in Germany. Now, last week and I think the week before, we reported that Facebook is working on consolidating all these apps because, remember WhatsApp is something that Facebook bought because they could see the writing on the wall and see which direction things were headed. And more recently, it turns out that Facebook could literally see the writing on the wall because they were spying on teenagers that opted into some kind of VPN program. So Facebook is basically, it's like the board. They're assimilating WhatsApp into everything else. So if you want to keep using WhatsApp, you got to use their platform. But the EU, under the whole GDPR thing, is saying, well, now, no. Users did not agree to that. You can't just sweep them up and take them along. You've got to get them to agree to these changes to your platform.
They also talk about how, and I don't agree with this at all, but they say that Facebook it's important for life. Like, the argument is the only opt-out strategy here is to not use Facebook. But it's impossible in the modern world to not use Facebook, which I think is a scary thought.
Yeah.
I don't use Facebook. I'm fine. I'm getting along. So,
I would tend to agree with that. There are other services that can be used, but
they argue that none would have the reach, which I guess is true.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that. I guess the EU's position is that if you have a platform that is that successful, you have some responsibilities to humanity, which seems a little idealistic.
But I think they are right, perhaps for the wrong reasons. This shouldn't happen. But it shouldn't happen because these products were purchased under the guise of, hey, we're going to merge all this together, but they're going to keep their autonomy.
Yeah.
And then he systematically forced out every one of those CEOs. So this is kind of like one of those telecommunications mergers.
Yeah.
Are we going to have to start saying oversight for social media mergers?
Maybe.
We talked a lot about, what was the name of the Chinese nephew that you came up with who always did the programming for the smart devices? Heesung. This is definitely a perfect example of Heesung. Because this is a product that is an Internet of Things product that uses an app that this company didn't create. They 100% outsourced it to Heesung. They don't control it at all.
The EU has ordered a recall of a children's smartwatch over severe privacy concerns. The EU warns that the Enox SafeKid 1 smartwatches contain several security flaws that led third parties to track and call children's watches. So it turns out that there's not security flaws. Security flaws implied that there was some attempt at security in the first place.
Right.
That is not the case.
Unencrypted, unauthenticated endpoint communicating with an app created by a Chinese company, owned by a Chinese company, not this company. So they just sold the watches, and I just told the Chinese, it was like, hey, there's no authentication. Just build an app. But you could call this same API with your own tools if you wanted to. Track the kids, make calls from the watch, send SMS from the watch, listen to the kids. It was pretty much a nightmare. It's sad that this is like the bar of when to recall something. Because how could it get any worse? I guess if it burst into flame.
The battery recall. It is the first on the first read through of the article, it almost sounded like the Chinese company that was tasked with building the app was like, something's not right here. This is not like super secured. It's like that's really unusual for those contractors.
But yeah, I would think the Chinese company would be like, oh, free data on children. All right, we'll do that. Yeah, that sounds good. No charge. I don't know. Is it Filin, you think? Filin?
This thing? Yeah,
not sure where the emphasis goes on that word. But it's I guess weapon is a good, what we'd call it. But it's has some hilarious side effects.
Filin, Russian Navy unveils a new weapon that will make the enemy hallucinate and vomit. So they put a bunch on their warships, and apparently it's like the brown note, except that it's the V note.
Well, you have to be looking at it. That's why I question whether or not it's a weapon. I think it's a defensive system. So the idea is it would be hard to target something if this were visible. Because especially if you're looking down a scope, this thing just messes you up. Like it operates on the same idea of a strobe light, where it tricks the mind, but it does it in such a way that you're just unable to focus on anything, and you might piss your pants and vomit.
Neat.
So, it also
night vision. It destroys.
And missile tracking. The optical stuff on missiles can't deal with it either. Surprisingly.
Interesting. Time to get some on the black market and work on some countermeasures.
I was, this is a terrible website, Mac Rummers. I was going to get Krista to rate this stock photo. I think it's a really good stock photo.
I feel like she would do like 2 out of 3, maybe 3 out of 3, because that's the French flag, obviously. And, but it's the Apple logo. So
maybe if it weren't on a white background.
Yeah, that would probably help it a lot.
But that's not the story here. The story is about taxes.
Apple reaches a deal with France to pay an estimated $571 million. Yeah, $571 million in back taxes. So this is the whole like France, EU, App Store, operate in France, whatever. $571 million. So they're just going to pay it.
Why not? It's not like they can't afford it. They'll make that back quickly from those French people.
Yeah.
I bet the yellow vest movement is like data rates are just skyrocketing because you have to coordinate on the weekend. You're watching on your phone.
I wonder if like after Apple pays this, that they're just quietly going to tack on more fees in like the App Store transactions. Like, okay, $571 million. Let's claw that back over the next 2 years. Increase transaction costs to compensate.
Yeah, I'm sure they have a plan for that. We talk a lot about third-party breakdown and security. So these big data leaks, a lot of the time, it's not the government necessarily losing the data. It's not the big corporation losing the data. It's a third party. It's a law firm or an analytics service or something like that. And it seems like the Chinese have seen the writing on the wall, and they're like, yeah, we're wasting our time going after the government. Let's just go after the third parties.
Yeah. So China has hacked Norway's Visma to steal client secrets, according to investigators. So Visma is like the Norwegian version of like Lockheed Martin or Boeing, I gather. And they work on stuff for the Norwegian government, and so that's the stuff that's been stolen.
Well, it's claimed that they didn't get anything that belonged to a client. They got in, and they got some stuff from Visma itself, but they weren't able to break through to the clients that they have. But it's sort of, they might have. It's a situation where it's like, what could they have done? And it could have been really bad. All those Norwegian secrets.
Well, I think that in the Western business, like all you have to do is just do business with those companies. Is like hire the company to actually do work for you, and you will learn everything that you need to learn about their internal infrastructure and how they operate.
Got to be careful. Be careful who your third party is. Well, moving on to Facebook. The Facebook news for 2019 continues to be poor, although they did have those decent earnings, which was
I think that's going to be
surprising.
short-lived. I think the next few quarters is just going to be like catastrophic, like Harry Carey.
Well, this could play into that, which is even more investigations.
Gizmodo has this story. Report. Attorneys general in 6 states are now investigating Facebook's data practices.
Boilersnake is part of this class action suit. Some of his nudes popped up. It was revenge porn on Facebook. And they were like, listen, that policy doesn't apply to snakes. And he is furious about that.
He's right up there with Bezos.
Yeah. So he's very upset. And we were like, Boilersnake, you listen every week. Why do you use Facebook? And he just hisses. He won't discuss it. This is, wait a minute. No, we didn't move to social. We're still in government. That was a government story because it was states investigating, which explains why we're still talking about government when we talk about Congress.
Congress has flaunted its ignorance in a House hearing on net neutrality. Yeah, I mean, there's not really any other way to say it. You remember the Facebook testimony? And it was like, oh, wow, all these people that are trying to talk to Zuckerberg, like he was like, I get the feeling that like when Zuckerberg was testifying before Congress, it was like one of those episodes of Star Trek where like Data sits down at the terminal and the computer's like showing him stuff and he just keeps saying increase, and it's just all this stuff flying around. And so Zuckerberg went into those meetings with that level of preparation, and the senators just had like ABC blocks and were asking him dumb, nonsensical questions. And it was just a walk in the park for him.
Well, he did seem confused by it. It's like
confused by their stupidity, maybe.
He had his shields tuned to energy weapons, but they were launching mortars. And he was like, what sort of technology is this? I don't understand it.
So yeah, they didn't know. It was evident they didn't know anything about technology. And this is even worse.
But more importantly, they used their time to grandstand rather than actually try to get to the bottom of anything. So TechCrunch this is a very long article, and they sort of just like go person by person and tear them apart. One of the big arguments was Title II.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was at the 30s we came up with Title II.
Yeah, and they made a big show about like the guy. They had a picture of the guy from the 30s, and it's like, should his stuff apply to stuff that he couldn't even conceive of? And it's just like, what are you even doing?
But of course, they don't seem to understand or just conveniently leave out. It was basically completely rewritten in 96.
Yeah.
So the 30s stuff doesn't apply anymore. They also talk about how there was a lot of partisanship, just blaming across the aisle for various things rather than blaming the telecommunication companies. So
Tom Wheeler was there. His testimony, or the stuff that they talked about Tom Wheeler, was also pretty interesting. And Tom Wheeler was part of it. Like they were kind of grandstanding with Tom Wheeler, and he was like trying to explain his reasoning for stuff, and they just cut him off and were like, no.
Well, they pointed out one guy was like, he listed like 40 bullet points, and then he was like, yes or no, Mr. Wheeler?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's not a yes or no question. So it shows that, I don't think I think the politicians are stupid. Uninformed. They're not stupid. They're cunning and evil. But they are very uninformed simply because they don't care.
Yeah.
This is not important to them. What's important to them is getting reelected, which is why they're there in the first place, because people do care about this.
Yeah.
Some people do, at least.
You think that it's like, the electorate will really like if I grandstand and make a big show of things. And it's like, no, this is just...
Well, yeah, it's like they're talking to their aides and they're like, how can I trend on the Reddit? And it's like, well, let's grill Verizon for 20 minutes, Yeah.
Instead of how can I trend on the Reddit, it's like, how can I appear on the Level1 news appearing as dumb as a sack of potatoes?
Yeah, I don't think they're aware of us. But
I can dream.
One of the problems with that is that on the Reddit, there were probably a lot of threads. It's like, oh, we're doing something. Because those rose-colored glasses, yeah, it might make you feel good, but it's actually counterproductive.
Yeah.
You have to accept how dark the world is to brighten it. There's a quote that you can put on a t-shirt. Well, we talked about Huawei and their woes with the U.S. government. And it seems like every week, Trump just inches it forward just a little bit more.
Yeah. So CNBC has this headline: Trump is reportedly expected to ban Chinese telecommunication equipment from U.S. networks. Yeah, that's going to be like, it depends on how deep that rabbit hole goes, because that could be really bad.
I can't imagine that you would get rid of that in a short amount of time.
Well, is it components made in China? Is it software made in China? What are we doing here? Because I got news for him. A lot of that Juniper stuff.
Also, what's the punishment going to be? Because if you're like, well, I don't know what kind of modem we've got in this ancient thing here. Like, well, do we have to tear it all out, or do we face giant fines? It's got to be a bit of a mess. But again, it is definitely playing to his base.
I think that the better thing to do would be for world governments to agree that when they find a backdoor or an intelligence operation, like suppose that some world government compromised the random number generator or a piece of telecom equipment or whatever, that all of the details, all of the classified details, whatever of that were published publicly, so that everybody could analyze not just the attack, but the style of the attack, so we could find it and fix it.
You are on the level of Congress with your nonsense right now. You know that will never happen. Yeah. Can never happen.
It should.
That's like coming out and being like, hey guys, let's just quit spying. We'll just tell you everything. Tell you all our secrets.
I can dream, can't I? No, I don't know.
Got to take off those glasses. You have to see the darkness.
Speaking of seeing the darkness.
Well, this could lead to some darkness. I think this kind of points out, anytime we talk about, this is great for engagement, because anytime you talk about the Second Amendment, you're going to get a lot of engagement. But the purpose, the greatest thing about the Second Amendment is not that you can protect your family or that you can have fun shooting guns. It's that the government is terrified of it. All governments terrified of it. I mean, look at France. What would the yellow vests look like if they had guns?
That would be scary.
We would already have a French Revolution. Yeah. That would have already happened. And that's why these cases continue to go on.
Ars Technica says, just when an end seemed near, 2 3D printed gun file legal battles get a new life. The Defense Distributed takes gun legal fight to New Jersey, and as Washington case will continue. So is the Attorney General in New Jersey is basically freaking out that you can download a 3D printable file for like a one-shot rifle.
And
a pipe rifle would be better.
Defense Distributed is in Texas. So it's very convoluted. The New Jersey case was paused because Defense Distributed thought that the Trump administration was going to rule somehow. They have not. So now a judge has declared that is going to go on, but they also, in Texas, filed a case about them taking the links down without having won the case. But the Texas judge said, I'm not going to hear this because I'm a Texas judge and this is New Jersey. But now there's a Washington case because New Jersey has ordered Cloudflare to take down the links on another site. I think, is that how you interpreted all that?
Yeah.
So
but it was Cloudflare servers physically located in Jersey.
It's a tangled web. But the point is, there isn't any ruling, but the government is still blocking these files preemptively.
Cloudflare did actually take down the files in Jersey, but there are redirects for those files for the other servers not in Jersey. So you can still get them.
Yeah. Wouldn't recommend it. I think those are fairly unsafe, but, people could use them to go on to. I mean, I think, we talk about those old, like the World of Tomorrow, documentaries like the Disney thing that they had, and nobody got it right because we had computers when they made those, but no one saw it was like, no, computers are going to be tiny and everybody's going to have one in their pocket.
Yeah,
like they just couldn't get their mind around that. But I think there's a good chance that 3D printing is sort of like that now.
Yeah.
It's like 3D printing is just it's a goofy thing. I mean, what are you going to do with this? This is useless.
It's so cool.
But it does not have a use.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be watertight. It might not be. It might not continue to be once you start using it. But think about from the giant, room-sized computers down to the microprocessors of today. If manufacturing follows that into the home, that's going to change everything.
Yeah.
And it's certainly going to enable you to make a gun.
I would like a 3D food printer. Like, that might be the thing that comes to life first.
The food would have to be so processed, though.
Yeah.
And what we're learning about processed food and how it's killing us.
Yay, cancer.
Now, if you could just, like, raise some cows and just go, cut a piece off of it, put that in a printer, maybe.
I just watched a cow in my mind, in my imagination, walk into a 3D printer room, and I heard the chipper shredder noise.
You're just shoveling vegetables in there, and then you march the cow and the chickens in, and you flip a switch, and 8 hours later, fully loaded printer.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, now we're switching to design, which, don't expect us to have a lot of insight on this. Although this story was interesting, not so much for the design portion of it, but how they're using the store design with technology.
How Lush is using AR, augmented reality, to change the way you buy bath bombs. So you watch this video and you just get an idea that the guy that runs the place is just freakishly tall, which is pretty cool. But they've got a wall of bath bombs in their store, and it's like, oh, you can relax, and it's just.
I'm trying to find a picture of the store.
It's just
these guys talk. Yeah. Oh, here we go.
I had no idea.
So you can see. Oh, thanks for these related videos. That's exactly what I want. So there are no prices. There are no names. There's just walls of little bath bombs, and you use your phone to take a picture of the bath bomb, which then loads all the details, preview videos, and a price, and then you buy it through the phone. What do you think one of those costs?
Too much. There's too many varieties.
I bet there's $25 starting point for those things.
I'm pretty sure the only bath, it's just Epsom salts. What else could it be?
Well, there's all sorts of scents and colors. Did you see the one that shot out a rainbow? That was popular this weekend. So you can, it looks like a cloud, and when you put it in, it shoots a perfect rainbow out of the bottom of the cloud. But of course, as you know, as Krista would tell us if she was here, that turns the water black because it's all the colors.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that one was $14.
No, that's too much for a bath bomb.
What price isn't?
Is this also the thing that people get high on? Because I read that was a problem.
That's bath salts.
Oh, okay.
That's a totally different product.
I had to ask.
Well, this story, once again, is design, but this was more social commentary, I guess. Rather than show the headline, I'm just going to show the picture over here.
These are from Gucci. So, yeah, Gucci's got a new whatever this is.
They look so stupid. But I think part of what makes them look stupid is they got that, serious model face going on. If they were smiling, it wouldn't look as bad.
I'm pretty sure these were shopped in. I don't even think that these are real.
No, these are real.
I mean the pictures.
Oh, possibly. But they did, actually did a runway show with these.
Wow.
So they showed them off. Now, if you're wondering what's weird about it, so they pulled these.
Gucci's not offering these for sale.
Well, they were.
And the Time headline is, they have pulled the black balaclava after blackface comparisons.
So, yeah, the idea is, it's a clever idea. You pull that up, sort of turtleneck, but you just pull it up and you get protection. But the big red lips and the black surrounding face reminded some people of the old days of, when they used to do the blackface on TV. It's a stupid design. I don't know if my mind would immediately go there.
I don't think so either.
Either way, you're not going to get it.
Well, I wonder if that's going to be $1 million Gucci product. It's they only made 50 of them worldwide.
I wonder if they shipped any. Because they did the fashion show and no one cared. But as soon as it went on sale online, the outrage began.
Yeah, it's going to be on eBay for $1 million.
Well, they probably didn't ship any of them.
It's going to be in a museum. It belongs in a museum.
I feel like you could probably make your own if you know anything about making sweaters, right?
Oh, but then it's definitely racist. This is accidentally racist.
Well, you also have to wonder, it seems like a stretch to think this is racist, but did anybody inside of Gucci, even for a moment, think this could be a problem?
No. How would you say that there's a certain class of person out there who would look at anything, and if they can twist it slightly into something and suggests that it's racist, that they enjoy creating that kind of disruption from being like, oh my gosh, look at that. That's what this is.
I would say that surpassed baseball as the national pastime sometime mid 2018.
So I think we've got our answer then.
Well, you're going to have a cold face, but you won't have a racist face. So, good news. And we'll see you tomorrow when we talk about business and maybe a little bit of social media. I don't remember. I think it's social media.
See ya.